Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, my passion project. Now, this website is not my passion project. I spoke on it last week, and it's called Good Neighbor Coalition. I believe in voting, and I believe in taking a message to the voters when your elected officials and even the courts um, sometimes don't get it right. That's how I came upon this Good Neighbor Coalition. And with an awful lot of people, please believe me, I'm not that bright. So I didn't come up with this on my own. But what it does is, I honestly believe that win, lose, or draw, what I'm doing with this Good Neighbor Coalition uh, .org is going to help me with my passion project, which is California clemency. I'm a activist. I'm a prison reform activist. And my prison reform activism is it's it's my best hat. If anything that I really am passionate about, it is my belief that the whole country could do better in the area of prison and prison reform. Um, I can say thank God for prisons. There are some people who just flat out can't handle society, and I'm not saying kill them. I think they should be locked away for a long time. But it has been my um, experience, which started some 35 years ago, or close to 34 years ago, that there's an awful lot of people who do not belong behind bars. Now, if I could briefly describe the fact that I, from 1983 to 1993, was a Bible study teacher at the San Francisco Juvenile Hall. I taught the Bible to the maximum security unit at the time, it was called, and I did it for 10 years, 83 to 93. And some of the things that were I witnessed, where I think any normal human being would say, this ain't right. Sure, there were some young people brought up to the facility who have done some heinous and horrible crimes. And I've seen them spend much time up there before they were sent off to the youth authority or whatever. And so in my 10 years up there, I say I learned an awful lot. Sure, a juvenile hall is not a prison, nowhere close to it. But some of these individuals, I was able to follow their lives as they went to the California Youth Authority and some to prison. And they corresponded with me on certain situations that have happened to them. And so I did my best, to encourage them. But some of the stuff was so out of line, and I know they were not making it up, thinking that I could do something about it. But I started following prisons and prison issues more closely. I looked at what worked looked at what didn't work, read an awful lot, and I'm very committed to what I believe is a solution that I have titled California Clemency Boards. Now, this website, which is casegame.squarespace.com, casegame.squarespace.com. Now, please forgive me. I have it on my login page, but it says here a new clemency system is coming to California. Well, it's not coming tomorrow, and I know it's not going to be easy, but this is my calling. I believe God has put me on this earth to do something in the realm of prison reform, which I say is something that He has placed in my responsibility bucket. And so I'm excited for the fact that I know that with God's guidance, I will be able to introduce to the world a better way to handle prisoners, not only while they're locked up, but when they come out. And the website has an awful lot of stuff that if you really was on the website, you'd find it really hard to figure out what exactly I'm doing, what I'm proposing, but it's all there. Why did I create the website? Well, the stuff was living in my head, and as big as my head is, I couldn't keep it all up in there. So I created this website, and I stored a whole bunch of information on it that gave me some comfort that I didn't have all of this up in my head and couldn't keep track of all of the articles I read and various things. And so, I basically have this thing together, this tool that I believe is going to revolutionize the prison industry. But it costs, and I'm going to have to take it to the voters. And so, though I'm getting my feet wet with a San Francisco ballot measure that had nothing to do with this subject, I'm really learning an awful lot that is going to help me put together the right people to, do what my passion will have me succeed at. I know it's going to be years, and right now you're looking at a pie in the sky dream. I understand pie in the sky dreams, and I honestly believe that I will be able to pull that dream down into where I can and others can touch. It's something that I really have spent an awful lot of time and effort in, and I must say that I did it with the great love and respect and appreciation for the young people who I ministered to back in 1983. Why? Because I claim, though it was God, I claim that young people, young criminals saved my life. Because when I first started going to church and someone tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come up and teach a Bible study class, and me knowing nothing about the Bible, I was hesitant. But um, I did it anyway. And I got on in there, and I can honestly say that when I say that these young people saved my life, it was because if I did not have that particular connection to something that would keep me away from the things that I was doing, then I would have easily fallen back into the things that, end up taking the person's life when they're doing wrong. So this kept me, and I owe a great bit of debt to the young people who challenged me. I remember when I first was asked to teach a Bible study. The night before I was to, it was a week before, excuse me, I was to teach my first Bible lesson up at the juvenile hall. I had a dream. And in the dream, I was teaching a Bible lesson. And as I was teaching the lesson, not only was I falling asleep, but the people who I was ministering to and teaching the Bible to, they were falling asleep. And so when I woke up from the dream, I tried to interpret the dream, and it was simple to me. God was saying to me, Alan, do not be boring. And so I took that, and I took that command, I call it, from God, and put it together with the challenging questions that these young people were asking me about life. And at the time, I was only 26. I was just 10 years older than a lot of them. And for me to stay on my toes, I just got into it. And it was fun. It was fun because I got to see, and you educators know, when a light bulb goes on in somebody's head and they finally get it, it is really, really rewarding that you were there to see the lights come on. And I seen an awful lot of lights come on. I will describe briefly one situation where I was given a Bible study, but it was based on an incident that I seen, something I saw while riding a Muni bus. And so I see this guy get on, this young, I don't even think he was 20. A young man got on the Muni bus where I was sitting in the front, and he passed me, and he had on the back of his jacket, R.I.P., and then his buddy's name. And he looked like a gang member. Forgive me for being judgmental or whatever you want to call it. But a thought came to me. And the thought was, this young man must be confused. Because if you really look at it, how can you say rest in peace when all you've been doing is raising hell on earth? Well, I took that message up to juvenile hall, and I created a Bible study around it. And when I did, and I gave them that line, I'm telling you, the 25 young men, mostly black, in the room, it was like a light bulb went on in the room and made it brighter. I visibly saw that they got something. Now, was it something for them to hold on to life? I don't know. And I'm sure most of them, it didn't stick, I'll be honest. But I did see that light come on for the moment. And so it was things like that. And the more fun times of, I'll describe another issue. I'm giving a Bible study and I'm talking against drugs. And so I myself personally, side note here, I have nothing against smoking marijuana. And quite frankly, I think that it more people should do it. I don't do it personally right now and have it for 30 years or whatever. But the fact of the matter is I believe it is a medicine. And so, but I was given a Bible lesson in opposing drug use. And so one kid, he, smart kid, stood up from the back of the room and said, but God made marijuana. And I responded, he also made poison ivy. I don't see you smoking that. And the whole room, exploded in laughter because they knew that this guy, even the guy who I was responded to, big old smile on his face. But the fact of the matter is they appreciated the fact that I was ready for a lot, and I would say all of the things that they were trying to throw at me, just trying to tip me off my game or whatever you want to call it. But the fact of the matter is I had more fun up there. I learned an awful lot more from them than they taught me. I have to, excuse me. I learned more from them than I taught them. Is that right? I learned more from them than I taught them. So that passion, which was getting deeper and deeper and deeper, then had an ending. And it was a sad ending. Why? Because I was up in the juvenile hall when 11 young people from the maximum security unit bolted out the facility. But true, I warned the chief probation officer at the time and the director that the way the facility is treating these young people, there's something bad's going to happen. And then when it did happen, hey, I was in the unit. August 20th, 1993. I'll never forget it. Well, that was my last day there. Why? Because I was so mad. I told, I was quoted in the paper for what I saw happen. And juvenile hall, they don't want to be embarrassed. So they got rid of me, concocted something, got rid of me. So then one day, bringing on this passion, why it's really my passion project, I'm standing at a bus stop and a cab pulls alongside of me, and the cab driver says, where are you going? And so I told him, and he said, get in. And so he gave me a ride. And I'm telling him, I just lost an opportunity to do something that I really love. And this man, he seemed Arab. And pardon me for saying this, but usually it has not been my experience that Arabs use the term God. They say something else. And so this cab driver said to me when I was letting him know what happened, and I'm still buzzing over the fact that I don't believe things have changed the way they have. He said, but God has something else for you to do. So he dropped me off, didn't charge me or anything like that. And I remember my pastor once said, If God wants you to do something, he will have the cab outside running with the motor running. And that has always stuck in my head. And so I took that and I realized that one little message from this cab driver who's just nice, he saw somebody standing outside and wanted to give him a ride home, a ride to wherever they were going. And so I just thought that God touched his heart and, he did his, what he was led to do. And that little bit of a message, God has something else for you to do. Well, I believe it was God. So I'm looking all around and all the signs and stuff like that. And so, ever so aware of my surroundings and stuff like that, just reading up on different things. I'm watching 60 Minutes. And on 60 Minutes, they're doing a story. And the story is about the three strikes law. And so the three strikes law were giving people 25-year prison sentences for things like stealing a bicycle or cookies. That program that I saw, if I had not been around to see it, I would have never come up with this idea. But that program put in my head, as the governor at the time, whose name was Gray Davis, California governor, he was trying to, I don't remember who the host was or the 60 Minutes, I think it might have been Mike Wallace. He was trying to justify a 25-year sentence for somebody who stole a bike. Then it hit me. There is way too much power with the governor. And so I started researching. And in my research, I realized that the governor had some pardon powers. And there's like a 3-judge panel that has, in California, has pardon powers. And, then there's federal, where the president can pardon federal prisoners. Well, when I researched all of these things on pardons and clemency, is the same thing, commutations and stuff, that's where I developed this new clemency measure. Now, I wasn't born yesterday, and so anybody who's looking at it will wisely say, oh, you're soft on crime. Well, I'm not dumb enough to take a project and make it be a revolving door for people who are bent on committing crime. But I do know that there is a humongous number of people in prisons, not just California, but all over, who do not belong in prison. And right now, there's appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal, even for the innocent. But this clemency, new clemency system, cuts through all of that. And, hey, it's basically a system where my mission statement is up here. And my mission statement says basically what type of person is going to sit on these commissions. Now, I'm not going to mention that all here. I'm just saying that there is somebody who is dedicated to solving the escapable uh, attempts at real prison reform. And I believe that God's going to help me move this along. Now, when I say this, I don't have to be alive for this to happen. All I have to do is put everything in order, and hey, God's going to do his part. I just want to do mine. And I'm excited. I'm excited because, sure, this is years away. And that doesn't help a lot of people who go in, who are begging for a new chance right now, and deservedly so. There may not be an awful lot of people in prison who are innocent. However, there's an overflowing number of people in prison who don't need to be there. And I'm saying from the standpoint of one aspect of the three strikes law. Now, it has changed since. It has been modified. But before it changed, there was a guy who wrote a bad check, I think, for $93. And it was his third offense. The other things he did 10 years, 20 years prior. And he got a sentence of 25 years to life because of that one bad check. Well, another man stole $240 million from the elderly, senior citizens, in a Ponzi scheme, or he just ripped off about a bunch of old homeowners. And he got 23 years, but he didn't get 23 years to life. He got 23 years, which means he could be paroled in 19. Now, he probably is out of prison today. But the fact is you can steal, or you can write a bad check for $93 and get 25 years, and you can steal $240 million and get 23 years. Well, please. There's no way in the world that's justice. Of course, sadly, the guy who got the 25 years and wrote a bad check for $93 was black, and the guy who ripped off old people, stealing $240 million from him, was white. And I have a confession. How I found out about this? I looked at my own loan documents. The first home loan I ever got was from this same white man who ripped off all these old people. It was the same guy. And so I had intimate knowledge of whatever. Of course, I didn't know he was ripping people off at the time. Quite frankly, he did me a great service. But the fact is, the laws need to change. And I'm passionate about prison reform. It is the hat that I would love to be wearing when I finally leave this earth. Alan Jones was a prison reform activist. All of the other things that I do, I love doing them. But there is only one thing that I will be super satisfied on, and that is my opportunity to show that in this life, you do need to give back. And I am not going to miss my opportunity to give back. And I hope you join me. Until next time, God bless you.